Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you today with STS Radio. We're going to be talking all about WrestleMania 31 with the upcoming matches and all of the drama about everything that's going to be happening. We got 8 big matches. 7 of them are named. One of them is going to have a minor spoiler with somebody being added to a match. One of them is the Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton match that hasn't been announced yet. But hey, we all know it's coming. We all know it's going to be having a big match. That RKO was killer on Monday. I was loving it. I know that a lot of people were big thumbs down on Monday Night Raw. I don't know if it was mostly because I'm hyped up for WrestleMania this year. I'm very lucky. This is going to be my 5th trip to WrestleMania and being able to attend the show. I'm a little bit down on the place that it's at, with it being only in Santa Clara, California, 2-hour drive down the road. Some people say that I'm very lucky. I don't have to pay for airfare. I believe last year I paid just a little bit over $500 for my flight, round trip to New Orleans. That's a little bit of a pretty penny. It kicks your butt when you're paying that every year to go to WrestleMania. 26, I was lucky enough to win a free trip through WWE Comics, WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta. That was the year that I was able to jump on board with my clique buddies, Assault and Battery 777. Luke Cara was there, and freaking Yaya 88. We made a bond, we made a trip, and we hit Atlanta, and we hit it hard. From there, we went to WrestleMania 28 with the WrestleMania package, skipped out on 29, and had the time of our lives at WrestleMania 30. And I won't lie, a few months ago when I was looking at this WrestleMania 31 card, I was sort of kicking myself, because it just didn't look like it was really coming together. But honestly, here we are, 2 weeks out from WrestleMania, I believe, and I think I really like this show. Like I was saying, there's going to be 8 matches on there, everywhere from the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. You got your, Divas Tag Team match, your ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship. You got Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins. You got the future versus the past, and Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt, Cena versus Rusev, Sting versus Triple H, and Roman Reigns going up against Brock Lesnar. Honestly, I always have a ton of fun when it comes down to WrestleMania. This year, we were a little bit lax on planning. We just really didn't come together the way that we have in the past. But honestly, I thought that there was a lot more timing, a warning, I guess you could say, for pre-sales and ticket sales for when they were going to be going on. Hell, I was a little bit down this morning when NXT announced they were going to be, doing an NXT show. Something that I've been looking forward to for a long time. I thought I was going to have to wait until about next year, but here we are, March 12th. They are announcing the show for 2 weeks. So very little planning went into this, unless it was very secret. It's going to be at San Jose State University. It should be a very small show. Tickets are anywhere from $15 to $300. They're going to be going on sale Saturday, which I believe is going to be the 15th. I'm not 100% sure, but whenever you're listening to that, that's going to be coming up very, very soon. But the whole, weekend, if you're doing WrestleMania Access, if you're doing Wwe Wrestlemania. I just screwed his name up. I apologize out there to my good buddy, Wwe Mania, beating Rey Mysterio and buddies, or, you're going to the Ring of Honor shows, the Evolve shows, Kaiju Big Battle. WrestleMania is always packed top to bottom. Hell, you could go to WrestleMania weekend and not even go to a WWE event, and I guarantee you're going to have fun with, meeting wrestlers at WrestleCon, going to see Evolve, all the shows that are going to be going over at the State Fairgrounds. There's a ton of fun. You wouldn't even have to touch a WWE event if you didn't want to, and you could go home happy. But WrestleMania is WrestleMania. This is the big ticket item that everybody, bellies up to the bar and pays for. And it is what it is. You have to go to WrestleMania in my mind if you go, but it is the biggest show on earth. I don't know anything that could be bigger than this. This is the Super Bowl of wrestling, and I am pumped. You could see, Roman Reigns, basically taking the company over by storm. He's going to be moving into that John Cena spot. A lot of people think. I thought that Daniel Bryan made leaps and bounds to become the #1 guy last year with WrestleMania 30. I didn't think he could ever get any bigger than that for him. Sorry for him. He had a horrible year this year. You would think, he wins the championship at WrestleMania. He marries Brie Bella a week later. From there, basically, he loses his father. He has a horrible time with a neck surgery where he loses feeling in his arm, and he's going to be tucked away into this ladder match. So, who's going to say? Roman Reigns could be taking over today. For the people that are out there that are questioning coming to WrestleMania 31, or even just are flat out canceled their trip, basically saying that they were going to go to WrestleMania 32. Some people say that WrestleMania 31 is just a stepping stone to get them to WrestleMania 32. They're just like sort of, waving the towel, giving up this year and trying to make next year bigger. Lots of rumors out there about Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker wrestling. Everybody knows about WrestleMania 32 taking place in Dallas Cowboys Stadium, and they want to fill that up. They want to be able to tell the Super Bowl, and they want to be able to tell the NBA All-Star Game or the NCAA Final Four that they've had the most people inside of that Dallas stadium. To get 100,000 people in there, they're going to have to sell a ton of standing room only tickets. A lot of times for those tickets that they sold over 100,000 people about these standing room only tickets, they watched the game in the parking lot on the huge jumbo screen outside, or they watched it in little corners where you couldn't even see the court or the field at the time. They were hanging out in the bar the whole time, watching it on television. But honestly, for me, I care about the people who have their butts in seats watching the show. That's what I'm talking about. And I know WrestleMania 32, when we're all taking over Dallas, it's going to be a ton of fun. And we can talk about that down the road. But honestly, to me, there's a lot of people who don't want to go to 31 because they don't like the direction of the company right now. They don't think that Vince McMahon is really feeling what the fans want. And I guess that mostly is Daniel Bryan. And nobody really cares about Roman Reigns anymore. Even though a few months ago, this guy was the hottest guy in the company. And everybody was loving him, and he was a member of the Shield, and then he was chasing after the WWE Championship with matches at the Money in the Bank show and also at Battleground. Now, anytime this guy steps out on television, people are booing him and pretty much throwing trash at him, saying that they don't want him in their ring at WrestleMania. What do people expect for WrestleMania 32? What is going to make 32 bigger than 31? That is the question that's on my mind. I have no clue. If Vince is going out of his mind and the writers don't know what they're writing at this point, what makes you think that they're going to be able to turn it around in a year and be able to get back on point to see what's going down? But today we're going to be going over all the matches. We're going to run down one by one. Next one is going to be the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal after the break, and we'll be right back with you. Last year on the road to WrestleMania, Hulk Hogan came out on Monday Night Raw with a huge announcement. And during that announcement, basically, he said that, as the guest host of WrestleMania, he was going to start a new tradition. And that tradition was basically going to be living off the legacy of Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant, throughout his career, worked, all of the towns. And throughout a lot of the towns, they like to put him in battle royals. And during these battle royals, Andre the Giant would simply be able to be played off as just being too big for any man or men to eliminate. He was the king of the Battle Royal. So Hulk Hogan decided to come out with the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And last year, basically, all of the guys who didn't have a WrestleMania spot were be able to thrown into this Battle Royal. That way they'd be able to be used on the WrestleMania card, and they would get a share of the WrestleMania profits when it came down to it. Vince McMahon has been known to make sure that all the boys and all the divas end up finding a way to get some sort of a payday bonus for working WrestleMania, no matter how big or how small. WrestleMania has become this huge circus event, as I talked about in the opening, that just basically there's tons of money to be flowing around. This is probably the biggest payday that most of these wrestlers will receive year-round. And I know that when it comes down to it, a lot of the wrestlers would probably like to be in any match besides the WrestleMania Battle Royal. This is just where, it's got to be. I can't remember which WrestleMania it was, but when they first started doing the pre-show Battle Royal to get all the fans into their seats, to get everybody ready, so when basically they would come out to sing America the Beautiful and start off the show where they either had, the planes flying over, or, they get the big shot of, the announcer in the ring announcing WrestleMania is set to begin. Everybody would be in their seats and everybody ready for the show. When they're showing all the camera shots, you don't have any empty seats. And what better way to do that than, start having live matches? I mean, like when you go to Raw, when you go to SmackDown, they always have that, superstars sort of match that, you don't really care about the guys, but you're paying to go to those shows to see wrestling. So you get to your seat, even if it's, basically to watch I can't think of any lower name guys. I could be looking at this list of named guys right in front of me, for those guys to wrestle. And, a few of those early Battle Royals were won by Mark Henry. It was sort of a SmackDown versus Raw, where the guys wore red shirts or blue shirts. It was for brand supremacy of the jobbers, I guess you can say. And it was a fun thing. Most of the time, you had to get the DVD and watch it on the bonus features in order to see it. But I've always been a fan of Battle Royals, Royal Rumbles, so I always went on my way to make sure I checked those out. But this year, especially with the ladder match taking up 7 guys as participants into that match, this match is looking pretty slim. Last year there was 31 contestants into this, and as of right now, we only got 15 names added to this list. Highlights of these names are basically The Miz, a former champion all over, winning the WWE Championship, Intercontinental Championship, United States title, tag team titles. Curtis Axel, an Intercontinental Champion. Ryback, he hasn't won any titles, but he was in the main event at one point. Zack Ryder, a past United States champion. Jack Swagger, a former United States champion, as well as a world heavyweight title holder. You got Big Show, who's won every title in WWE I can think of. You got Kane in there, a former world heavyweight and WWE champion. And you got Mizdow, who was a Money in the Bank winner, as well as I don't think he held the title. I can't remember if he won the Intercontinental belt or not. Sin Cara is on there. He's always a guy that, even though he loses a lot of matches, is always highlighted as being this guy with a whole bunch of skills, even though he's not the original guy that was under the mask. When I look at this, not named at this match has to be the absence of Sheamus. I remember last year thinking about the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. People had all these sort of dreams about what was going to be down. It was heavily rumored that Rob Van Dam would make his return to the WWE. He was very much in the plans and in the works. He ended up not working WrestleMania. He ended up coming in and making his return the next night at the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, the circus, as you would like to say. From there. People also thought that Chris Jericho would return to the WWE for the big WrestleMania payday and give everybody that shocking moment, but instead all of the guys just piled into the ring, the bell rang, and everybody started wrestling. No secrets, no returns. This year we haven't seen Sheamus. We haven't seen him anywhere since Survivor Series. I still think that this is the best spot to put Sheamus and make him look big. If you think about last year, people have been looking at Cesaro for a good little while, thinking that his rise would come, and here we are a year later. It still hasn't happened. But if they were ever going to give Sheamus that big super push, I apologize. If they were ever going to give Cesaro that big push that everybody's been looking for, bigger than the United States Championship, but putting him into that main event picture, it would have been last year. You remember back, he was a participant in the Elimination Chamber, which was taken as a big surprise because at that point he was mostly being used as a tag team wrestler with the Real Americans teaming up with Jack Swagger. But him and Jack Swagger had an argument during the pre-show tag team match where they felt that they should have won it. And there was miscommunication in the match, and basically because of this, Cesaro went out and wrestled solo in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, winning it by body slamming the Big Show over the top rope to a shocking a round of applause from everybody, because everybody had really been getting behind Cesaro. He really looked like a wrestler's wrestler who every time he went to the ring, it seemed like he was always doing something that we had never seen him do before. A big student of the game and guy that has a lot to bring to the table that someday somebody backstage at WWE is going to realize that, it's his time. From there, he left Zeb Coulter. He started being managed by Paul Heyman to only mysteriously, right before Survivor Series, dump Paul Heyman to try and become a Triple H guy, which went nowhere. And you can hope that this is going to be the beginning of something. Sheamus is rumored to be coming back from WWE into WWE, and this time he's going to be coming back as a heel. They've tried this persona before. Sheamus, I believe, came into WWE as a heel, won the WWE Championship. From there, they sort of lost focus of him, and he won the King of the Ring. He started coming to the ring as King Sheamus with a green cape, and he had deer antlers. And it's a point that a lot of people would like to forget. I don't even remember when he stopped wearing the King Sheamus gear, but I think everybody breathed a sigh of relief. There's a lot of names in here. Honestly, I would really love to root for my man Jack Swagger and see him get the win here, but easily in my mind, you can definitely see more than likely Kane and Big Show, running a force in this match, much like they did in the Royal Rumble, but then maybe coming into some blows. We've seen basically Kane, looking like he might be the guy to make the turn out of the Authority. Basically, Kane was one of the guys who, fell for Randy Orton's speech, but while Randy Orton was speaking on Monday, basically was just sort of rolling his eyes at what he was saying, and he could see through what he was doing. While Big Show bought it hook, line, and sinker, and just the big dumb oof, just sort of like, oh yeah, he was joking around, all right, yep, he's not going to kick our ass later in the show. We'll see what goes down. But that's going to be the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Sheamus is my pick to get it done. Who do you guys think is going to be there? Do you see any returning legends? Maybe Hillbilly Jim jumping into there, the cast of Legends House. I don't know. When I see Curtis Axel's name in there, I've seen him doing the Hulkamania gimmick. I don't know. He's not a babyface. He's still a heel that people are cheering for and they're getting behind him. Will WWE notice that the fans are starting to get with this guy? Maybe have Hulk Hogan give him some sort of a rub. Hogan's got to be doing something at WrestleMania. They can't repeat him as the WrestleMania guest host again. He already did that last year. And that was more of a homecoming for Hogan. He had the big ovation on Monday Night Raw. He came out to kick off WrestleMania 30, but, that was because he had been out of the company for, I don't know how long he was gone, at least 5 years, but, he had his TNA run, which lasted a good little while, and people were just happy to see him back in the A show, making him look like a big star. People have grown tired a little bit of him coming out, especially during the Pink October month with him, pushing the pink Hulkamania and WWE shirts, coming out and being a goof, basically plugging the WWE network like crazy. But Hulk Hogan will always be Hulk Hogan to me. I cherish every live moment I get to see him. I know he will not ever come out for a match ever again, but I still Hulk up and I do the Hulkamania, pose, because I never know when the last time is coming. And for him to come out there and maybe give the rub to Axel, somebody, someday, has to run into a big boot. Somebody has to run into a big fist. That's going to be a hell of a pop, and I'm only going to hope that I was there to see it. Hashtag give Divas a chance. And here we are. The Divas are actually getting to put the four, I don't want to say the best workers, but the four biggest names of the Divas division. I think that when I talk about AJ Lee, Paige, and the Bella Twins, those are probably the four best known girls out of there. You can debate, Natalia, Alicia Fox, a lot of the girls that are in this division that aren't going to be seeing some work. Hell, even Naomi is a hell of an athlete. I don't want to leave anybody out, but more than likely, if you're talking about the girls that you want to see the most out of this WrestleMania, instead of, getting the Vicky Guerrero Invitational, as they did last year with all 20 girls in the ring at one time. You've already got one Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and I know this isn't an over-the-top Battle Royal. Last year it was a one fall decides all. Having the girls actually go in there wrestling a tag match would be really, really fun, and it almost becomes a match that people are going to care about. It's the Divas Championship. It's the match that more than likely will go on before the main event. You can only hope that the Bella Twins don't get a repeat of WrestleMania 29, getting bumped in favor of John Cena and The Rock when Undertaker and CM Punk ran too long. But honestly, when you look at the card, if anything's going to get the cut, it's going to be this match. These girls really deserve to have this match. If you think about how the Divas division has been carried this year by these four particular, when the Bella Twins made their return back to WWE, honestly, I was really skeptical. A lot of the news reports were basically saying that WWE was able to talk them into coming back to the company because of the fact that they were going to push Total Divas. The Total Divas thing was going to give them their own reality show as well as a few other girls, and there would be bigger stars because of the reality show. From listening to the Bella Twins RF Video Shoot interview, a reality show is what they were looking for to do on their own, but WWE securing to do one with E. They sort of looked at it as this was their chance to do what they wanted to do. They'd be able to show their own lives. The television with E definitely would push them to become bigger stars in and out of WWE, and of course that's one of the big storylines going on with Total Divas. The big cliffhanger is, will the Bellas leave WWE? Even though that, when you watch Total Divas, you get sucked into that time frame which is going down, but you have to remember that Total Divas normally works about 3 months behind what you're watching on television, and the Bella Twins are coming up on the end of the show with this big cliffhanger. Will the Bellas leave? We've already seen the Bellas wrestle after Survivor Series. We saw them wrestle at TLC. We saw them wrestle at the Royal Rumble. We saw them at Fastlane. We know they're not going anywhere. Nowhere in Total Divas are they going to hit the fast forward button and get what they want to. get the storyline progressed at all. But everybody knows they're staying. It's only the single moms that stay home and watch this junk when it's on reruns like crazy, that are not WWE fans, that are on pins and needles, basically wondering what will happen to the Bella Twins if they leave WWE. Will they have to leave Total Divas? But Paige and AJ are girls last year. Paige, of course, made the surprise debut the night after WrestleMania. She came in, she beat AJ Lee. AJ Lee took a hiatus from the company where, that's about the time period she got married. She spent some time with CM Punk, who had left the company, and then when she made her return, we got a series of matches, Paige versus AJ. And Paige versus AJ, I had thought the world of these matches. I thought this was really going to show the Divas division had really taken a step forward. They were getting out of the let's hire all the models we can and try and teach them how to look like they're wrestlers. And now we got girls who actually want to wrestle. In my opinion, the matches didn't click all that much. I like watching AJ Lee wrestle other people. I like watching Paige wrestle other people. But for some reason, I never saw a match that I really liked that much out of these girls. So I don't know if it's just their oil and water or what, but it didn't work. But I saw great matches out of both of them. I'm not saying I want either of them to go away. The Bella Twins, both of them have made huge strides. I think a lot of John Cena's work is not wrestling work, but his work outside of the ring. Training and and working out on his wrestling skills have really rubbed off on Nikki. Daniel Bryan, the same with Brie. And I think that this really could be a good match. I'm not saying that this is going to get longer than 5 minutes, but it definitely is something that these girls really do deserve. I mean, WrestleMania 29, there's no wonder why that match was cut, where it was basically supposed to be the Bellas with Sandow and Cody Rhodes, and they were going to go up against... shoot, I can't even remember who they were going to wrestle. Wasn't it the Funkadactyls and the Dancing Fat Guys, Albert and Brodus Clay? It was what it was. It got cut for a reason. Some people have said it was because of a Total Diva storyline. Some people say it honestly just ran over. But as far as the hashtag Give Divas a Chance, this is one way to do it. I mean, they're going to get to wrestle on the WrestleMania stage. It's going to be a match that actually matters. When people look back at WrestleMania careers, they don't really remember battle royals. They don't remember Divas Invitationals. They remember singles more than they remember tags. But at least these girls will be able to get in the ring and be able to show what they're going to do. In this match, I'm going to pick AJ and I'm going to pick Paige. Even though these girls have a rivalry, when AJ made her surprise return helping out Paige when she was getting double teamed by the Bellas on a night that she should have beat Nikki for the Divas Championship, but Brie came in from the outside. Both of these girls, Paige and AJ, have both been getting, they've been getting a shaft by the Bellas, double teaming on them. Of course, when Nikki won the Divas Championship, it was because of Brie knocking AJ out with the Divas Championship, and then at the rematch, you saw Brie get involved in there as well. If you go back in the past, when Paige was going after it, Paige was getting double teamed as well. So both of these girls know about the twin magic and everything that's going to happen. But I think in order to get what we want to see, which is either a fatal 4-way with these 4 girls, we have to see the baby faces get the win. So we'll pick Paige and we'll pick AJ in this match. The WWE Hall of Fame, normally in past trips, has been one of the funnest nights for me. It's awful fun. You know, we went to the WrestleMania 28. We all dressed up. I remember WrestleMania 27. I have memories of taking a 1-hour nap in the parking lot, sleeping in my car because Atlanta was way too packed full of fun that whole week. And basically, that night before the Hall of Fame, we didn't even lay down to go to sleep. Basically, we came home from a night. We knew that we had to leave, and I believe an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the most, to go to WrestleMania Access. All three of us took our turn jumping in the shower and getting cleaned up for the next day, and I think we just sat there, and I remember me and Miguel, I think we watched the replay of the Atlanta Hawks versus the Boston Celtics, because CJ Productions, who also went to WrestleMania that year, went to that basketball game and had courtside seats, and I think we were watching the game, but mostly we were looking to see if we can find CJ in the crowd, and we just went out to have fun the next day because we knew that, you know, as drained as we were going to be able to get as fired up as we could because we were going to be going into WrestleMania Access the next day. We were hyped up about, you know, doing all the activities. It was a WrestleMania trip. It's all or bust. So basically, we just went out to start a new day, and it was what it was. When I think about last year, it was basically the frantic rush to get to the Hall of Fame because WrestleMania Access, the Miguel's meeting of the Undertaker took longer than we thought it was going to, and I thought I would be able to go. I got into the next session of Access before Miguel was able to get out of the Undertaker. I got to watch Miguel meet the Undertaker, and then basically went up, but somehow security realized that Miguel was leaving the Undertaker line. It was making him leave they made him leave Access only to re-enter Access. So that pushed us back to the back of the Ric Flair line. So we had to meet Rick as fast as we could, jump in a cab. I ran into my hotel. I nearly pushed Brooke Tessmacher out of the way at the check-in front desk at the Drury Inn on accident, just because I threw my bags at Rodolfo, the guy working the front counter, and asked him to hold these and I would be back for them after the Hall of Fame. He gave me a check-in slip. I apologized to Brooke, jumped back in the cab, and we headed over to the show and made it into the Hall of Fame just before Jerry the King Lawler came out to announce that Toledo would be the first member inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I have a lot of good memories of the Hall of Fame. Honestly, this year, if I would have known the Hall of Fame class was going to look like this, I would be like a lot of other people out there. The Hall of Fame, you look back over the past few years, has been putting in a whole bunch of names. When I think look back at the WrestleMania 30 list of names that went in with the Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake Roberts, Scott Hall, Lita, Paul Bearer, Mr. T. You know, a lot of those names are big names that could have been spread around to making a lot of other classes look really nice. Although, you know, only Ultimate Warrior was only the guy to really work on top as a main eventer. There were a lot of big names. Jake the Snake Roberts was one of the biggest names that come out of the 80s and into the 90s. Scott Hall was a guy that really transformed wrestling when he left as Razor Ramon heading to WCW to become, you know, Scott Hall, his real name, and with the NWO, and it sort of made everybody change the station from watching WWE to the underdog WCW, pushing that to the wrestling to watch. You know, there's a whole lot of big names in there. When you look at the 2015 induction class, it's headlined by the Macho Man Randy Savage, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, a guy that honestly should have gone into the WrestleMania Hall of Fame years ago, but through stories that we don't even know and we can't even get to the bottom of. You know, Vince McMahon, you know, just came out on the Stone Cold Steve Austin show and said that there was no bad blood between the two. Just, you know, Randy was staying out of the spotlight. I don't know. I really feel like the year Randy Savage, you know, showed up at Comic-Con and was the superstar to launch the Defining Moments Mattel series with his Mattel figure, the first Randy Savage figure since the not LJNs, from the Oh shoot, I can't remember the name of the figure, and I feel like an idiot right now. But his first figure in a real long time. He never had a Jack Superstar. He wasn't involved in a lot of things just because there was this black cloud put over Randy. Some people said it was due to this Stephanie McMahon rumor, or some people said it was due to the way that he left. And for some reason, Vince took it harder when Macho Man left rather than when Hogan left or anybody else. Why Vince brought Hogan back in 2002, but Vince wouldn't reach out and try to bring Savage back any of the years, even if it just was for a Monday Night Raw appearance or just for an induction to the Hall of Fame. Who knows? There has to be something behind that story, but we'll never know. But definitely a long time coming. It would have meant a whole lot more if Savage would have went into the Hall of Fame when he was alive, but sadly, a few years ago, he passed with his heart attack while he was in the car, and we've all seen the Macho Man story, the DVD documentary that came out earlier this year, and it was a sad one, man. It was a really sad one, and the doctor that was the Randy Savage's physician basically said that he asked to look at Randy when Randy was in the doctor's office helping his mother out, but Randy, caring for other people more than himself, pushed off the doctor's wishes and didn't do the physical. The doctor says that if Randy would have taken the physical, he could have got Randy on some prescriptions, or maybe got him on a health regimen that would have made it where Randy Savage was probably still alive today. But it just wasn't meant to be, and I get a little bit sad talking about it. But Macho Man, honestly, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time and the most deserving guy to go into the Hall of Fame. You have Kevin Nash, a.k.a. Diesel, who more than likely will be inducted. They haven't put the commercial up, or the sort of segment, I guess you can say, going over his career in the NWO, WCW, and WWE. This guy was a headliner for both of them. He was the one guy to beat Goldberg's streak, which most people will remember him for, even though most people think of him in a negative way as the one guy who killed off Goldberg's momentum in WCW. Somebody had to beat the guy. Goldberg wasn't going to be undefeated here in 2015. Somebody had to be the guy to beat him. Somebody was going to get that black cloud put on them. More than likely, if it wasn't Nash, it was going to be Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan had worked out the deal with Eric Bischoff that if he put over Goldberg for the championship in the George Dome, Hogan would be the guy to get to beat him first. And what kind of a deal they worked out because of that more than likely ended up being the finger poke of doom on Monday Nitro between Nash and Hogan. Nash said the hardest part about being Booker as in WCW that he found was basically you could come up with the best ideas in the world, but then you have to pass them through 7 different wrestlers. And if one guy doesn't agree with what you wrote down on that paper and doesn't think it's the best thing in his interest, he's going to say, I'm not going to do it. And then you have to go back into the writer's room, and basically you have to find some way to make everybody okay just so you can have a show every Monday night on Nitro. From there, they have a special presentation of the Warrior Award. That was an award that was created by the Ultimate Warrior that he asked Vince McMahon to pass on the tradition. Connor is a guy that came into our hearts last year, and basically as a Make-A-Wish person for Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan really put Connor as the reason that he won the WWE Championship. As Connor was in the front row, Daniel stopped his celebration to go up to Connor and told him that he was the reason that he was able to overcome the odds of the Authority with beating Triple H earlier in the night and then coming back and beating Randy Orton and Batista. A special kid and a special heart, the Make-A-Wish kids. There's thousands of them that the WWE sees a year, and how they're able to do that and be able to still put on a show that night. It breaks my heart thinking about it. I got 2 kids, and when you're getting ready to become a father, it's one of the most stressful things to think about. Is you think that most of the time you think about there's a new baby coming, it's going to be a new part of your life, but a lot of nights you're sitting there, you're wondering, like, what if something happens, what if something goes wrong, and it's a hard thing to deal with, and unless you've gone through it, me sitting here, I am a normal person. I'm sure I've got some things wrong with me that I wish were different, but I mean, like, when you create a new life, you don't want them to be sick. You don't want them to be deaf or blind or have some sort of a disease. So all these things run through your mind like crazy. So how the WWE does this for the Make-A-Wish people is really, really cool and really awesome. From there, they go to Arnold Schwarzenegger. WWE just did a lot with Arnold in Ohio, where basically they were at the Arnold Classic doing tryouts for a lot of the bodybuilders, and they did autograph signings. They were getting their name out there. They did their first NXT live shows outside of Florida, where the wrestlers were able to wrestle in front of small crowds that were not the Florida normals that go there. They go crazy for everything they do. So maybe they were able to learn some things. You saw WWE is taking NXT on the road now. They're going to be at WrestleMania weekend, having their own show at San Jose University. So there's another crowd that they're going to be able to be in front of. But Arnold, even though he doesn't have a whole lot of moments, he does have a very cool moment at the height of the Triple H WWE Championship run, I believe in 1999. Arnold was there to hype up one of his movies. He was on the announce team announcing the match. Triple H came over, sort of, gave him a poke, and Arnold knocked him out. Very cool moment. I know that Arnold was a part of being, I believe, one of the guest hosts of Raw when he came to publicize one of his movies that were coming out in Brooklyn, I believe. Didn't really do a whole lot, but those are the only two moments. But he says he's a big fan of Bruno Sammartino and wrestling of back in the day. So he's probably the one guy that said he would show up to be a big star. But it also branched a whole lot between WWE and the Arnold Schwarzenegger, bodybuilding thing. So that is possibly a bridge that could be built stronger in the future. From there, one of the biggest stars of the tag team division of the 80s, no jokes involved. The Bushwhackers didn't win a lot, but everybody loved these guys. Everybody did the Butch and Luke Bushwhacker thing. Hopefully their speech will be real short, and I don't really know what they could really talk about. Rikishi going in is sort of a downer to me. He sort of gets put in the Koko Beware situation where he just sort of seems like a guy to me. I don't know if you talk about the Sultan, or you talk about a member of the not the Head Shrinkers, not the Wild Samoans either. Whatever the name of that tag team was escapes me. Where he was a guy before he ended up becoming Rikishi, gaining a whole lot of weight. He was over. I mean, definitely he was over at that point. Everybody's always going to remember he's the guy who came out and said he did it for The Rock. He ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin with a car at the Survivor Series. I believe it was 2000 off the top of my head. And that set up Stone Cold Steve Austin's return, where he just beat the crap out of Rikishi. I knew that it was hokey. Stone Cold Steve Austin, being ran over by Rikishi, that year-long storyline that they ran, and it sort of just seemed like they pointed the finger at Rikishi because they didn't want to point it at Triple H because everybody thought that's who it was going to be, and they wanted to build up a whole lot of suspense to what was going down. But when Rikishi and Stone Cold Steve Austin had their match, and especially when Stone Cold hit Rikishi with the truck, that was one of those moments when I thought what happened on TV was real. And as stupid as it sounds, I really thought that Stone Cold Steve Austin killed Rikishi that night. Now that I'm thinking about that match, I'm a little bit more fired up for it than I should have been. I need to look up what match that was and check that out on the WWE Network tonight. From there, Medusa going in as the Divas person. She was a star. I still haven't gone and checked out that Bull Nakano versus Medusa match that I promised Gilbert Blaze that I would watch before the Hall of Fame. There was a lot of rumors. I was hoping that this would be the year of The Rock. I've heard that, Mickie James was somebody that was named that might be going in this year. I guess we should be happy that we're getting the Macho Man Randy Savage. So we'll go from there. That's your Hall of Fame class. I don't see really anybody else getting named. Kevin Nash is the guy that still needs to be named. It looks like he will be the guy who will be closing it. Still plan on leaving to make it to the WrestleCon wrestling show. I know that if I stayed at the show and jumped on the train and got over there, I would possibly only miss one match at the WrestleCon wrestling show. But honestly, in my opinion, the WrestleCon wrestling show looks like it's going to be one of the best nights of action for me to check out. I'm really fired up about that, almost more than anything else about the whole weekend. But Hall of Fame, always fun. We got $40 seats. We're sitting way in the back. So if you're up there with us, give us a wave. The next one is going to be a doozy. This honestly has the best chance of being a match that really is remembered for a long time. It's going to be a crash and burn style of battle. This is going to be the Intercontinental Championship ladder match. Wade Barrett is coming into the WrestleMania 31 with a huge losing streak on his side. I honestly cannot remember the last time Wade Barrett received a win. This battle started out before the last pay-per-view, before Fastlane, when Wade Barrett beat Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, this was punishment for the Authority returning to the WWE. Dolph was the one who got the pin on Seth Rollins, which basically sent them back, even though it was Sting that did the damage. Wade Barrett won the Intercontinental Championship from here, and then from there, he went on to SmackDown, where he lost his first non-championship match to R-Truth. From there, he was beat by Dean Ambrose, hyping up their match at Fastlane, where Dean Ambrose wanted to win the Intercontinental Championship, where his picture would then hang on a wall inside Titan Towers down the Hall of Intercontinental Champions past. Luke Harper just showed up into this match basically because he was an Intercontinental Champion before, and everyone started stealing the title, so Luke Harper appeared out of nowhere one night and just took it and ran with it. From there, basically it was being passed around back and forth before Stardust attacked somebody, and he got the title as well. From there, I just made a video about this just the other day, but Daniel Bryan is going to be added to the match tonight. He's going to proclaim this is going to be his WrestleMania moment, where he is going to take down the Intercontinental Championship and I guess regain faith in this belt. For months and months, I've been talking about the Intercontinental Championship back when Dolph Ziggler won it, and it seemed like he was going to be on the uprise and getting some wins. I was hoping for maybe a 6-month run with the IC belt. Maybe that would sort of repair Ziggler's career and get him to a point where they can bump him up to the next level again. It's been a long time since WrestleMania 29 when Dolph Ziggler cashed in the night after WrestleMania on Monday Night Raw against Alberto Del Rio. From there, basically, Ziggler suffered a concussion. He took a month off and came back. And from there, it's never really been the same. Ziggler getting the win at the Survivor Series was supposed to be a big exclamation point on his career, where it seemed like he was on the uprise again. But we just haven't seen it in the last few months. So many times you see guys getting pushed like crazy, and then all of a sudden WrestleMania season comes around and they just don't have a spot to put him, and he gets cooled off. If you go back and you think about Edge, fighting for the championship with John Cena for the months leading up into WrestleMania, then all of a sudden out of the middle of nowhere, John Cena has a different opponent for Mania. This, of course, was the Mania that was in Chicago, and Edge got paired up with Mick Foley. He found a way to sort of make that Mick Foley match mean more than anything else that was on that pay-per-view. And I think that really got everyone's heads turning towards Edge as not being a guy that was supposed to be filler as a John Cena opponent to fill in pay-per-views, but a guy that really could mean something to the WWE. And that's really when his WWE career really took off to the point of being, a full-time champion, carrying SmackDown as well as, going on his Hall of Fame career. Lots of guys in this match honestly have a shot to win this. I would love to see Dean Ambrose win the Intercontinental Championship. I think it would be a good moment to show that the last year of Dean Ambrose's career hasn't really been a waste. Ambrose, since the breakup of the Shield, hasn't been able to beat Seth Rollins. He hasn't been able to beat Bray Wyatt. He's just been in a bad spot. Even last month when he had a shot at the Intercontinental Championship in a one-on-one match, he got disqualified for beating up Barrett and not listening to the referee's instructions. I think that basically Dean Ambrose winning this title at WrestleMania would mean more for his career in the long run. I think with a lot of people thinking that Roman Reigns is going to win the championship in the main event of WrestleMania 31. I think that you could also have Seth Rollins beat Randy Orton. I don't think that's so much of a stretch with him carrying the Money in the Bank. But then again, Randy Orton is coming back to the WWE after being out for 6 months. With the wins at WrestleMania 29 and the wins at WrestleMania 30, the Shield would be undefeated in six-mans as well as in singles action. You could either bring back the Shield together for a big match for WrestleMania 32 or 33, or you could do the long-awaited triple threat match of Rollins versus Ambrose versus Reigns down the road at a future WrestleMania, and their undefeated streak would be on the line, where everybody comes in never losing at WrestleMania, but somebody has to walk out with the win. That means two guys are not going to be able to say they're perfect anymore, and with the members of the Shield, Ambrose, Rollins, and Reigns all being the future of the WWE in a lot of people's minds, that really could mean something. We've seen what the Undertaker streak meant to WrestleMania. John Cena, as far as I know, never being pinned. I think he's lost the match because I think he's been involved in the... has he ever lost? I think Cena had to have lost the match. Maybe it was a triple threat match. I don't think Cena's been pinned. Because he was in that match with Orton, Cena, and Triple H. So that must be why people have said that Cena's undefeated. But we'll have to see. Somebody will correct me down in the comment box below. Daniel Bryan coming into this match, honestly, is a little bit of a heartbreaker. Being in the main event, wrestling twice at WrestleMania 30, coming back WrestleMania 31. Maybe you can say is because he made his return at the Royal Rumble. Maybe he wasn't in the long-term plans for WrestleMania because WWE didn't know to put him in there, and they booked WrestleMania so far out. Even though when you watch television, it seems like WrestleMania was probably booked a week ago. It doesn't really seem like they have any long-term booking. No Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon sitting down and in the hot tub and booking out the territory, as Stone Cold Steve Austin would say, like he used to. R-Truth, no shot in hell he's going to be winning this match. Luke Harper is a good filler in this match. A lot of times with these ladder matches or Money in the Bank matches, you always have it's sort of like the big tall guy who's there to help with spots, making sure that people get caught and being in the right place at the right time. Harper had a good out-of-nowhere run with the Intercontinental Championship, and he had a great ladder match against Dolph Ziggler. Honestly, 10 times better than what I was expecting at the TLC pay-per-view to kick it off. Probably the match of the night. He has that big, huge clothesline, and he delivers that big boot. So, a lot to watch from him. Ziggler and Stardust, two guys that I really wish the best for. Stardust, I'm guessing the feud with Goldust and his father, Cody Rhodes, I guess is dead. A lot of people talking about that online right now, about how they're not going anywhere. Just keep an eye out for Stardust, maybe running in, having a Matt Hardy moment, much like WrestleMania 24. Matt Hardy had been out for a while. MVP started climbing the ladder up to grab the Money in the Bank. MVP climbed up the ladder, hit the twist of fate on MVP, and he wasn't able to win that match. Carried on their feud that they were feuding over the United States Championship for so long, and really was a spark to Matt Hardy at that point. Stardust and Goldust both been pushing for this singles match. They were trying to have it at WrestleMania for the last 3 years. Their match at Fastlane honestly did fall short. I think a lot of people might have forgotten that Goldust actually got the win in that match, even though Stardust beat him up after it, and then right in front of his father. But I think there's a lot they can do with Dusty. They didn't like putting Dusty out there in front of the crowd, but Extreme Rules is the pay-per-view that has a lot of matches that are just sort of matches, but Stardust versus Goldust, giving Goldust that exit window to, exit stage right and move on to becoming a backstage authority figure for WWE would be great. I know that Goldust was pushing, trying to get himself into this match, saying that he was a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, but he wasn't able to pull it off. Lots to see from here. Wade Barrett, I think, is also a forgotten guy coming in. I think a lot of people are thinking that he's going to lose. He could be a dark horse, actually, to win his own championship back. We haven't seen him carrying the belt himself in about a month now, with all the people running around stealing it. He thought he got it back, but R-Truth had given him a fake WWE Kids belt, the ones that were made out of foam on Monday Night Raw. But, this guy lost the Intercontinental Championship to Miz at WrestleMania 29 on the pre-show. WrestleMania 30, off the top of my head, I can't remember him being in any of the matches. Maybe he was injured, or maybe he was in that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I can't remember. But, I think the Wade Barrett is a big piece of the puzzle for WWE in the future. Coming in with the NXT back there around WrestleMania 26, going out there on the stage and actually watching the pre-show Battle Royal that was won by Yoshitatsu. He's come a long way. I think he is a bright part of the future. A big part of the future for the WWE. So we're gonna have to see. My pick in this is gonna be Ambrose. We're going to see what we can do from here, but there's going to be bodies flying everywhere. There's going to be more than one ladder inside of that ring. Everybody's going to be going up there. You know that Ziggler, Stardust / Cody Rhodes, Dean Ambrose, they're going to be looking for a moment, much like all those Money in the Bank matches from WrestleMania past, or from the Edge and Christian versus the Hardys versus the Dudleys, that big moment, like when Jeff Hardy is hanging off of the ring holding the championship belt, and he is speared by Edge. I mean, that replays for every WrestleMania moment of all time. It doesn't matter what DVD they're hyping up, what kind of a special on the WWE Network. That is what they play, and that's what these guys are looking for, that WrestleMania moment to put that exclamation point on their career and put them in the next level, so that next year they're looking at a big-time singles match, or they're looking at even a future championship match at the next WrestleMania. Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins is one of the biggest rivalries going inside of WWE right now. For so long, Randy Orton and Seth Rollins fought side by side inside of the Authority, where basically Triple H had a hand-picked series of guys where everybody had their place. And basically Randy Orton was the superstar of today, and Seth Rollins was the superstar of the future. That was capped off mostly by Seth Rollins winning the Money in the Bank briefcase at the June pay-per-view, Money in the Bank. Seth Rollins was underneath Randy Orton, and he knew that he needed to get to that spotlight. So many times big matches came up, whether if it was Monday Night Raw or pay-per-view fights, where basically Triple H was picking Randy Orton ahead of Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins wanted to prove to Triple H and Stephanie that he was the man for the job of the Authority. So many times he fell back and watched Randy Orton get beat by John Cena, whether if it was at the Hell in the Cell pay-per-view or other events that would have led to the demise of John Cena and the rise of the Authority. And finally, it all came down to blows on Monday Night Raw, where Randy Orton was given a match against Seth Rollins, where it was supposed to be all laid out on the table. They would have a match to find out who the better man is, and at the end they were supposed to shake hands and walk to the back and fight the good fight at Survivor Series, with the Authority going up against Team Cena. Seth Rollins from there took over leadership of the Authority, with the delivering blows led to two curb stomps, one on top of the steel steps outside of the ring, another one on top of the announce table, where Stephanie demanded to take out Randy Orton because she was tired of the bickering, and even though it went through Triple H, it seemed that Stephanie was the one that really put the exclamation point on, let's put this out of our misery. It's time to go with Rollins. He seems to be the guy for now. So for there, they restacked the Authority with Seth Rollins, Corporate Kane, and Big Show as their big team. Randy Orton was the man on the outs. We kept thinking that he would make his return, either to come back and fight aside John Cena and join Team Cena to put the Authority out of their misery. We didn't get that, so we were waiting maybe for a Royal Rumble return, maybe for a return on a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown, somewhere out of the blue to hit the big RKO onto Seth Rollins. Now, Randy Orton made the save when basically the Authority was beating down on Ziggler, Rowan, and Ryback at the start of the Fastlane pay-per-view. He came out to make the save, and ended up being that he didn't get the RKO that night. He ended up sort of joining the Authority once again as the Authority drew him back in. And then the plan was finally figured out that basically Orton was suckering Rollins and the rest of the guys in, that he would be able to deliver his blow, calling his shot on Monday Night Raw, hitting the big RKO, putting Seth Rollins through the announce table with the RKO. Now, it was a very, very cool moment. Randy Orton really looked like a big star, but honestly, in my mind, now we have 16 days counting down until WrestleMania. We got 2 more editions of Monday Night Raw. I'm not sure where this one comes from this upcoming Monday, but we got the big Los Angeles go-home show. This match hasn't even been named yet, but we know that this is the match that's going to be happening. There's no other combination of guys that Orton and Rollins could face, and there's nobody else that we want to see them fight each other. And this match is going to be just what the Authority thought. Randy Orton is the superstar of today. Seth Rollins is the superstar of tomorrow. This is going to be a big exclamation point on there. My biggest thought going into this is we haven't seen Randy Orton, in the WWE in about 6 months. Is Randy Orton really coming back only to lose to Seth Rollins? But Seth Rollins needs that push on backstage and on paper, to get him up to where he's supposed to be. Seth Rollins at the January Royal Rumble was in a great match, one of the best matches that I've seen in WWE in a long time, with Brock Lesnar and John Cena. It was a jaw-dropping experience watching that match, where it looked like Rollins had a shot to win the championship in that match. A few times Brock Lesnar was taken out on the outside. They said that he was suffering from broken ribs, and at one point it looked like he was going to get carted off by paramedics, as Cena and Rollins kept the match going. Rollins hit the Phoenix Plunge off of the top rope. Probably the first time we've seen this match used inside of WWE. It didn't look like it got used to perfection. It looked more like a headbutt to the nuts from Rollins to John Cena, but it almost got the job done. It almost got the 3 count where Rollins got his hands raised. So Rollins, to me, sort of looks like the odd man out. I'm really not seeing a cash-in happening at WrestleMania. I know that the big main event is Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar. In this match, they've got it on contract that Brock Lesnar is due to appear at the WrestleMania 31 Monday Night Raw go-home show, or not the go-home show, the after show, I guess you can say, the big one, where everybody gets every last bit of everything out of their system because they're going home the next day. Very little amount of people I know go to SmackDown after that, but it'd be really weird to see Brock win the championship and then have a WrestleMania, end with the heel getting the championship only to show up on Raw and lose the championship there to another heel. That would be a very, very weird situation to be put in. But also, this is a very, very weird situation with the guy going into WrestleMania 31 as the champion. Brock Lesnar doesn't have a contract after that Raw, and he's going to be leaving us more than likely to go to UFC or go to Bellator, or maybe just try and stay in WWE, but try and use WWE against UFC to try and try and get a better deal on the table for the future. Randy versus Seth, in my book, is probably going to be the best wrestling match of the night. I'm really behind Randy Orton. I'm not as behind with him after the RKO as I was. There's a lot of times with the Randy Orton, honestly, to me, is sort of really boring. We see him wrestle the same match night in and night out, and you pop in any DVD from any of his championship runs or championship matches on pay-per-view, whether if it's against Cena or whether it's against anybody else, and they all seem to have the same feel, just sometimes they have different stipulations to go along with them. In this match, I am picking Rollins. I think that is the guy that's going to be able to pull this match out, but I want to see where they go from here. On Monday Night Raw, is it going to be Orton's turn to take the beat down where Rollins looks strong, or is he going to be able to get his hands on Rollins again, where it looks like Randy is just looking too strong for Rollins, and Rollins pulls the upset at WrestleMania? But I'm really looking forward to this match. I'm picking Seth to get the win, and I'm hoping that we can see something big from him in that Money in the Bank that he's been carrying around since June, that honestly, to me, with Lesnar not being inside of WWE all that much, especially after disappearing after Night of Champions and not showing up again until the Royal Rumble, not having a chance to actually use that. Maybe we should have seen some vignettes, Crash Holly style, of Seth Rollins, creeping around in the woods as Brock Lesnar is hunting and trying to sneak up on him with a referee. I don't know, a little bit of comedy to add to it, but at least we would have saw something with Rollins where he would have had a chance to use that. Maybe he should have even stepped up to the plate and started treating the Money in the Bank the briefcase like it was his own championship, and maybe defending it, seeing how there is no champion inside WWE. But I don't know. A lot of people liked it that Lesnar was the champ even when he wasn't around. I wasn't the biggest fan of it, so to me, Seth should have been looked at as a greater light. But we'll go on to a break, and then we'll come back with the next match, Taker versus Bray. Alright, Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. I've been very outspoken about this match, basically talking about Undertaker is a little bit over the edge. That basically Undertaker has had a long career inside of the WWE, and losing the streak at WrestleMania was the way that they should have wrote Undertaker off on that white horse and basically said, this is a career. Maybe you take a year, wait until you have WrestleMania in Dallas, which is in the home state of Texas of The Undertaker, and let him go out in his own way. put him out to the pasture there at the Hall of Fame, and then Undertaker can do whatever he wants to do. He's talked about, wanting to be a manager of some MMA fighters, trying to be some help to some people in the wrestling business. But basically, Undertaker has said in a lot of interviews that he's not going to be hanging around WWE shows. You can tell that Undertaker is trying his best to stay away from the business as much as possible. You don't really hear about Undertaker sightings at house shows or backstage or things like that. Basically, Taker is almost pretty much removed from the business as it is, except for the call from Vince McMahon, hey, we're going to use you at WrestleMania this year. It's about the only time that they use this guy. If you can remember, after WrestleMania 29, he tried to extend his welcome a little bit longer than WrestleMania. He went and did the European tour where he took the triple powerbomb from the Shield, and that was supposed to lead to something for him to wrestle at SummerSlam, but it turns out Taker's body couldn't take the triple powerbomb. And that was all she wrote from there. Bray Wyatt seems to be the guy that needs to be moving into this Undertaker role. I've heard from a lot of people, including Jim Ross, that when you look at Bray Wyatt, he seems to come off like he would be a better babyface in the role that he is now. People like this guy. People don't want to hate this guy. It's one of the reasons why when Undertaker, really started out, people really, got behind this guy and they really, feared him. I remember as a kid looking at Undertaker and really being in shock and awe, and that worked for a good long time. And basically when Undertaker was smart and he, switched the gimmick up and he went to the all-American badass, I guess you can say, big evil Undertaker riding his motorcycle around, that was pretty much the right time, because you could see the writing on the wall that the gimmick was done just about anything and everything that Undertaker could do. Bray Wyatt came in to a huge amount of pressure on him. People were looking at Bray like he was going to be the next coming of Undertaker. He came in and he had that match at SummerSlam against Kane, which was his debut match. And a lot of people thought that it didn't live up to the expectations and that Bray Wyatt sort of needs to find a little bit of ways to switch up the character. Bray Wyatt is the guy that gets on the microphone and delivers these great promos, but when you break it down at the end, he ain't saying anything. And the stuff that he is saying, you got to look it up in a dictionary to find out some of the words that he's saying and trying to figure out the second meaning of all these things. Like, he has a great tone to his voice to these promos, but sometimes the promos can lead you down a road to where you're falling asleep while you're watching him. Undertaker versus Bray, honestly, in my mind, really got kicked off on Monday when Undertaker made his appearance in the big quotation marks there with, the Undertaker voice that probably came from some 1990, rest in peace promo. I don't think that's the Undertaker of today. I'm pretty much sure that sounded like old Undertaker in my book, or I don't know. But the one thing that I know is I saw a posting by Michelle McCool on her Instagram of Taker working out and getting ready for this match. And that's the one thing that's not. Undertaker is looking big and bad. I've said a lot of bad things about the Undertaker, about looking at pictures of him on Instagram, of people taking pictures of him at airports, traveling around, or people, taking a picture of him in front of the subway, or, everybody's seen the pictures that everybody's seen. You don't see a lot of them, but when you do, you're sort of in shock and awe. I know that when a lot of football players and a lot of pro wrestlers, they get out of that line of work, their body seems to slim down a lot because they're not training as hard as they once did. They're not, going all at it. But Taker, to me, morphed into this, almost 70-year-old man where he just looked broken down, bittered and bruised, almost like he was going to be starring in The Wrestler, Part 2, coming to DVD soon. But I don't know, Taker, with the voice and the smoke coming out of the urn, shooting the lightning bolt out of the ceiling down and lighting Bray Wyatt's rocking chair on fire, and there on the screen read the words, "The man comes around," and people will know that that's a Johnny Cash song. And if you go to YouTube, it's not hard to find the song. It's a very slow sort of. It's Johnny Cash style. It doesn't fit in with country music of today. You're really going to have to like country music in order to like this song. But when you break down the words, I listened to the song, and it was alright for a Johnny Cash song. And I was sort of catching the lyrics as they went along. But when you look in the description box of the YouTube video, if you find the same one and you see the words, this fits Undertaker to a T. I mean, this is, ain't no grave like WrestleMania 27 was. That was one hell of a song that really fit that. And then bringing Metallica into the Hell in the Cell at WrestleMania 28 was even better. But this is the story of pretty much, a man meeting his maker. And then what happens from there, which path he chooses to go down after that. And, it sort of relates to Undertaker going up against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 30. He finally met a man at WrestleMania that was greater than him, and he lost. And they're pretty much saying that led to the death of Undertaker. And now they're pretty much putting it as Bray Wyatt is his path in afterlife. Is, Undertaker going to follow the road that leads him to heaven? Is he going to lead from the, is he going to drink from the offered cup? Or is he going to take the road that leads him to hell? And, that's been a road that Undertaker has been taking for a long path. On his career, we've seen him as a good guy, we've seen him as a bad guy, and now we have to see, what fight Undertaker is going to take here from Bray Wyatt. There's a lot of roads they can go down, whether if it's Undertaker getting the win, so everybody can say their tearful goodbyes and wave to Undertaker, knowing that more than likely this is the last Undertaker match that we will ever see, or will they have somebody really just dispose of Bray Wyatt? I've been talking about the death of Undertaker, killing him off to the point where we know we're never going to see him again. If Bray Wyatt exposes this man and shows us all that he's not the hero that we remember from 1991 or 1995. I mean, this Undertaker is old and haggard, bittered and bruised. He's been through too many battles, and he's not going to be able to fight this last war against Bray Wyatt. Is Bray going to be, granted king of the, spiritual world or whatever it is Bray Wyatt does? Bray Wyatt was able to hypnotize, Luke Harper and sometimes hypnotize Daniel Bryan. He also had Eric Rowan, and he released those guys. And as a singles guy, Bray Wyatt doesn't have the strength in numbers that he once did. He was able to stand up in a war against Dean Ambrose. It was nice to see him fight his own battles. He was getting wins. They were matches that didn't really matter, but he was getting wins. And that's a good thing for Bray. And, he's a big piece of the WWE puzzle. You can see at WrestleMania, he's going up against, one of the biggest legends of all time. If you look at his Royal Rumble highlights, he was in there for I believe over 40 minutes. He was the guy that got to eliminate Daniel Bryan. He seemed to be the guy that got the most eliminations. I believe he had 9. I could be wrong. But they made Bray look as strong as about anybody else. From thinking back about that Royal Rumble, he probably got the Diesel or Mabel moment of the night where, he just basically stood in the ring and said, bring me another one. Bring me another one. And I'll toss him out, and you bring me another one, I'll toss that guy out too. Bray is looking as strong as he's ever looked in his career. If they're going to build him another stable, and he can go from there, or is Bray going to stand alone? Is the story that they're going to have to tell this year at WrestleMania? It's a tricky match. I mean, like, you look at all the Undertaker matches of the past, whether if it's Edge, Batista, the Triple H matches, the Shawn Michaels matches, CM Punk matches, they were all great. Guaranteed, you look at that, it's the match of the night. It's the match that you're going to remember as saying, like, that was worth my money. I'm glad I ordered that pay-per-view. I'm glad I bought that DVD. I'm glad I watched this on the WWE Network. That is the match that makes those WrestleManias. The Undertaker match didn't do that for me. It was a very slow match. It was very sloppy. It was almost like, Brock Lesnar was having to lead Undertaker through that match. He got dropped on his head about the 3-minute match. The 3-minute mark of the match. And from there, it was lights out for Taker. He didn't know, what was up and what was down. How he got through that match, I have no clue. But I'm sure Paul Heyman and Brock were able to, help remind him, where he was at and where they were going. And sometimes the brain just works off of emergency fuel that he has. I can tell you that I can go either way on this. I would love to see Bray Wyatt get the win, because the point of basically Bray Wyatt being a big part of WWE's future. But, then again, you don't want to see anybody really lose their last WrestleMania match. I mean, Stone Cold versus Rock at WrestleMania 19, you remember that? Everybody's, thinking about that because everybody wants Stone Cold Steve Austin to return for WrestleMania 32, wrestle one more time in his home state of Texas. But, that match was so many years ago. And, does Taker want to go out the same way that Stone Cold did? Stone Cold's a legend. Stone Cold lost his last match to The Rock. He still had more wins over Rock at WrestleMania, 2 wins to 1. So he wins that war. But I don't think anybody really remembers, Stone Cold Steve Austin going out the losing way. Of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin would come back and he'd work for the company as the sheriff role on Monday Night Raw. He would come back, get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and he has a few moments along the way since being put in the WrestleMania Hall of Fame at WrestleMania 25. The appearances have been few and far in between. Now you get to see him more on the WWE Network interviewing Vince McMahon and Triple H than you do get to see him showing up the shows. The last show that he was actually on was WrestleMania 30. Before that one was WrestleMania 27. So this guy goes long gaps in between the times we get to see him. But I don't think anybody really looks at him and says, he lost his last match. But if Taker would get in there and do the favors for Bray Wyatt, it would do a miracle job to Bray. I think killing him at last year in the WrestleMania match against John Cena really put the smoke out on this guy, where he was really exposed that he wasn't really a player in the upcoming future. WWE, at the old age of John Cena, still had more plans for Cena in the upcoming year than they did for Bray. Bray got to go out there and wrestle in a steel cage match and get the win due to the scary kid on the outside, but he wasn't able to overcome the last man standing match where he got locked into a box, and he wasn't able to win that. So I would love to see Bray get the win. I'd love to see Taker get the win so we can all say our goodbyes the right way, and he can ride off on that white horse into that sunset, and hopefully come back someday on a old school Raw or something like that. The Undertaker gimmick is a hard one to bring back. But honestly, when it comes down to it, if you need him on a certain show, the dead man coming out is going to be easily a most memorable and a very, very long-lasting memory that everyone will remember and everybody will hope to be at that show. Not since 2005 have we seen John Cena pick up the red, white, and blue and start fighting for the good old USFA. But at WrestleMania 31, that's what John Cena is going to do. And basically, John Cena goes into WrestleMania 31 and fights Alexander Rusev for the United States Championship. Cena is going to be battling not only Rusev, but Lana is going to be out there, and all of the Russian soldiers that are going to be bringing Rusev and the belt down to the ring, making sure that John Cena does not do what he has chosen his path to be for WrestleMania 31. John Cena, one of the biggest stars. When you think about the United States Championship, you don't think about a lot of main eventers holding that championship. The past list of champions is a whole lot of guys with a whole lot of promise, but nobody really, has the faith of WWE to put them in main event situations. A lot of guys that have a lot of fans, real good in the mid card, but it doesn't seem like any of these guys are going to be reaching up to the main event circus yet. Alexander Rusev, the last year that this guy has had inside of the WWE, of course, the Royal Rumble was the 1-year anniversary of his career starting. When he came in and debuted at the Royal Rumble, it was a little bit longer, a little bit after WrestleMania, I believe, is when he started his singles career. I thought that he was going to be in the Battle Royal. But they ended up, I don't think, putting him in there because they didn't want him to be, they wanted to go with this undefeated streak, which is still going, still today. Almost a 1-year run of running through everybody. He hasn't fought the biggest names in the WWE like John Cena, but, he has knocked off some former champions in Biggie Langston, Jack Swagger. I don't know what the NWA title means to you guys, but he beat R-Truth. It is what it is. But, Rusev has just basically done what his nickname is, or is the name of what he does. Crush. He's crushed people. He's left people laying. Almost the only guy that's really stood up to him and really put up a fight in these matches has been Jack Swagger. I had all the faith in the world in Biggie Langston. I would love to see another Biggie Langston match. And once Rusev loses, that undefeated streak goes out the window. And then what does Rusev really mean to the WWE? What does this Russian gimmick really, have to do with modern day wrestling today? A lot of people hate this guy, mostly for the fact that he comes in and he hasn't lost yet. He comes in there and he says the same basic stuff that we've seen the Russians do all throughout the past history of wrestling. But the Russians really aren't a big rival to the United States anymore. No one really thinks about the the big red dawn coming to come get us or anything like that. It's been a long time. I guess basically the only person who fights the Russians anymore is James Bond. I don't think WWE really wants to be pointing against the Middle East folk. It didn't really work when WWE was doing the Muhammad Hassan gimmick, and they haven't really crossed that road to go back to there. But Muhammad Hassan was a gas can full of gasoline thrown onto an open fire. That really got WWE up in flames, and he was coming in. I really thought that when Muhammad Hassan was running through guys in the WWE and they put him up against John Cena on that edition of Monday Night Raw, that Muhammad Hassan should have beat John Cena. At Fastlane, that is what they did. Basically, Rusev beat John Cena. It was a big deal. Lana came into the ring thinking the match was over. You can debate whether if Lana knew the match wasn't over and was actually interfering, knowing that the referee would get involved with her getting into the ring with the United States Championship. Cena got kicked right in the nuts by Alexander Rusev, which followed up with a super kick right to the side of the head, knocking him cold, lacking him in the accolade, and the referee made the stoppage due to John Cena not being able to react to the instructions from the referee. I can see this going both ways. I mean, I was very, very down on last year at WrestleMania 30 with John Cena beating Bray Wyatt. I thought that took a lot of fuel out of his fire, and he hasn't really been the same since. Rusev, I know, is going to lose a lot when he loses that undefeated streak, and is John Cena, just to put another feather in his cap of another win at WrestleMania, gonna want to kill another guy? Definitely, when Rusev loses that streak, it's almost all over for him. Definitely, if you take the United States Championship away from him, I know that they'll fight again, more than likely at Extreme Rules, and from there, where does Rusev go? I mean, does Rusev go and fight Sheamus again? They haven't really got a rematch since that Monday Night Raw backstage pass. How they haven't done any more of those backstage exclusives to the WWE Network. That match was what everybody was talking about. I believe at the time, the people over in Europe were really mad because they didn't have the WWE Network yet. There was no way to see this match other than waiting for somebody to upload the match to YouTube or Daily Motion, or downloading some sort of a torrent or anything like that. I don't even think WWE cared to put it up on their website. I think they just basically put the headline, Rusev shocks the world, Rusev beats Sheamus, and that was all she wrote. From there, they made Rusev into the main event of the Survivor Series, with him joining the Authority, which was a good move and a bad move, knowing that Rusev had to get counted out in that match. They had to figure out some sort of a way for him to take a loss, but not put a loss in his loss column. Being knocked out and crawling to the ring for his count out made him look pretty strong, like he was trying to get back into the fight, even though he had gotten his ass kicked. Much like the Sheamus versus Mark Henry match at SummerSlam 2011, when they went through the barricade, and that's a very, very memorable moment, where Sheamus took the loss. Mark Henry became basically the number one contender to go after Randy Orton at Night of Champions, but Sheamus was still trying to get in there, and I think that was the last loss that Sheamus took until he won the title at WrestleMania 28. Everybody remembers that. But this is going to be a good one. I mean, Rusev is going to hit Cena as hard as he can, and Cena's going to be able to take it, and it's just a matter of trying to figure out what the finish is going to be. In my heart, the finish that I think that we're going to see is Cena getting the win. All those parents and all those kids that are going to be at WrestleMania 28, so they want to be walking out of WrestleMania 28, drawing their kids' tears from them crying of John Cena not being able to beat Rusev, and parents walking out of there thinking they wasted their vacation and their hard-earned money trying to take their kid to WWE's biggest show on the road, WrestleMania. It's definitely not a cheap show to go to, even if you live in the area of Santa Clara and you just happen to be a John Cena fan. You want to take your kids, you got to throw down a pretty penny. Parking's going to kill you. Admission's going to kill you. If you take your kid there, they're going to want a shirt. They're going to want popcorn. They're going to want soda, hot dogs. They're going to want the works. They're probably going to want ice cream by the time the show's over. And you're going to want to get your money's worth. You're going to be pumping them full of anything you can to keep them happy from having that breakdown. But that's what it's all about. WrestleMania 31, John Cena versus Rusev. Who you got? Sting versus Triple H honestly is my main event. This is the match that I care the most about, but I will honestly say with the Sting promo, you can debate all you want. If you think it was Sting or if you think it was somebody else, some people have come out and said that they thought the Sting promo for Monday Night Raw was read by Dolph Ziggler. Some people have said it's read by Sting, but they've changed the voice, much like the Black Scorpion of the past angle, which was revealed to be Ric Flair at the last moment because the person who was supposed to wrestle as the Black Scorpion ducked out, basically, demanding more money, and the NWA people at the time basically just said, forget it, we're not going to pay you that much. We just need you to go in there and wrestle this one match. We're not going to, break the bank. We don't need to have you. They put Ric Flair under the Black Scorpion mask with the Ric Flair blonde hair coming out the back, and everybody knew what was going down that night. It was not what was supposed to be the plan with Sting versus the Black Scorpion, but that is what Dave Meltzer has reported they were going with. Honestly, in my mind, when I think about Sting versus Triple H and the match that's going to happen, I think it's not the dream match that everyone was, waiting for Sting finally to come to the WWE. I don't think that when Sting was a downloadable character on the WWE video game this year for the first time, I don't think people went running to get the game, come home and say, I'm going to play Sting versus Triple H. Sting versus Undertaker was the match that everybody wanted, but I've listened to a lot of people talk about this match at WrestleMania and why Triple H has chosen himself to go out there and wrestle Sting is the fear that Sting and The Undertaker have, rode one of their last rides in their career. Basically, their careers are coming to an end, putting, two older guys in the ring against each other, which, they have a lot of pride. They're going to go out there and try and have the best match they can. But, putting Sting in the ring against the guy like Triple H, a ring general that's able to, handle a whole lot of situations, who doesn't have a whole lot of bad matches, is going to be able to lead Sting through a great match. More than likely one of Sting's only matches that he's ever going to have in WWE before, riding off into the sunset to end his career, being able to say that he wrestled for every major promotion and that he was a big star in all of those. WWE bringing Sting in to try and stop the Authority, honestly, in my mind, was a very questionable move. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the grand scheme of things when you're thinking about, how Sting fits in and why he cares about WWE so much. In these promos, they've almost come out and they've portrayed this as a WCW versus WWF, Monday Night War sort of situation, with Sting saying that he sat back and watched WCW crumble and he doesn't want to see WWE crumbling to the same problems that they had with basically the inside person, Triple H not knowing how to run the ship, and him and Stephanie, cruising the Titanic through the oceans, trying to go as big as they can, crashing into an iceberg, thinking that the ship is unsinkable. Sting has been in a big company that a lot of people thought, would last forever. And just like, Larry Zbyszko says, is the day you killed WCW, you killed the Golden Goose. Basically, Ted Turner was willing to pump money into that company until it's his dying day. And you can debate whether if you think it was one of the mergers that sunk the ship with Turner falling out of power of his own company, or whether if it's just somebody finally just looked at the checkbook and what Vince Russo and Eric Bischoff were doing, and noticing that there's a lot of money coming in, but there's a lot more money going out. All these big guaranteed contracts, tons of wrestlers under contracts that aren't even being used on shows. Of course, the Macho Man's brother Lanny Poffo was once signed to a WCW contract, I believe for a 3-year deal. Was never called to work one time. Never went to a TV taping, never went to a pay-per-view, never went to a house show, never did any kinds of, promotional things. Just signed a contract, went home, sat on his couch, collect that money. That was WCW for you. I bet you that the people that were in charge of the contracts didn't even know the names of the wrestlers that they were signing them to the deals. They just were going out and trying to sign everybody, basically thinking if they had everybody under contract, they wouldn't be able to work for the rivals WWF and ECW and anything else like that. Sting saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of his own company, and when it closed with that last Nitro, I know that people have been reliving the Monday Night Wars with the Monday Night Wars series that WWE ran. They've been watching the Nitros, and you can see, I mean, how good Nitro once was. And I haven't even gotten into, when the NWO starts, and that's basically just pouring gasoline onto the fire, making that a real hot time. And you can tell, I mean, if you watch Raw and you watch Nitro, those guys threw punches at each other, threw promos back and forth, basically trying to top each other one, because they wanted us sitting at home to make sure that we stayed either on the USA channel or on TNT, not wanting to switch back and forth. Now, the Monday Night War ended in 2001. Here we are in 2015, heading towards WrestleMania 31. All these years later, 14 years. Where does this fit into Triple H versus Sting? Sting, left WCW and he went home. He did a few of the Australian All-Star tours, and I guess wrestled just a little bit here and there, but making big news when basically people thought this guy was retired, going and signing with TNA, helping them get their Spike TV deal, and bringing a whole lot of eyes to the product. Sting is a guy that carries a lot of demand. People really like this guy. He's been one of their favorite wrestlers through the Surfer days and definitely through the Crow NWO days. People looked at him as the hero of WCW to stand up against Hulk Hogan and the NWO when nobody else would. And that still carries into today. People really like that black and white character, hanging out up in the rafters of the arena, just looking down. Every once in a while coming down and swinging a baseball bat and fighting off the NWO guys. But really, Hogan and Sting never really touched. And Sting just sat in those rafters for almost close to a year, setting up Starrcade, what was that, 98, I believe. And that is something that everyone remembers. I mean, I'm sure that's what a lot of people went to the WWE network, and they went and researched that match and wanted to watch it again as soon as that network came out last February. Them using this as a war, basically, I don't know if Sting's ever going to talk, if he's going to be on this week's Monday Night Raw, or if he's going to be on the Go Home show in Los Angeles, where he's actually going to be standing in the ring delivering the promo himself. I definitely can see that WWE hopefully got the news that people did not like that Sting promo. I've heard people that have read the promo to themselves, where somebody's actually typed out the words and read the words and put them together and said that's a really good promo, but I have not heard anybody that liked the way that Sting actually delivered it, if it was Sting or if it was Dolph Ziggler. At one point, I thought it was all the members of the Authority when it was going high and going low. There were some times when I thought it was Seth Rollins. There were some times when I thought it was Kane. There were some times when I thought it was Big Show. I heard a whole lot of different voices as the voice went high and then low and then all over the place. And there were some times when I thought it was Sting. So I could be pretty much talked into thinking that it was almost just about anybody. Hopefully, I think that Sting will talk about the missing years of his career that are not going to be able to be talked about or shown on a Best of Sting documentary series, because he went to wrestle for TNA. And is this something that maybe Sting will mention in one of his promos, that, not only did he watch WCW, crumble and fall, he saw TNA build itself up to being a strong company as well, and then basically being run by Dixie Carter, run to the point of where it was starting to crash and burn itself. They really dodged a big bullet with TNA being able to sign with Destination America, but because of the Destination America move, they lost a lot of stars. They lost Hulk Hogan, they lost Sting, they lost Bully Ray, and those are three of the big guys that TNA was really built around. Bully Ray with the Aces and Eights. Sting was one of the leadership guys. He was on a lot of the main events. He possibly, behind Kurt Angle, one of the biggest stars TNA's ever had in their company. And as well with Hulk Hogan, people can say that he led to the demise with him signing to help run the company with Eric Bischoff. A lot of the angles were all ran through Hulk Hogan, even though he only wrestled, I believe, 2, maybe 3 matches at the most for the whole company. We had to, be put through Brooke Hogan coming and being a part of the show, and the wedding to Bully Ray. I loved it. Some people hated it. I'm not sure, but I mean, that would be a great selling point for a lot of people. Definitely to be hitting up their Twitter machines. Just, I can't believe Sting said TNA on a WWE show. They'll say it on the WWE Network. They'll say it in some documentaries. They talk about Ring of Honor. They talk about TNA. I think if Sting said their name, or even if he just called them, I was with those other guys, people would be able to put the connection together as well, and they'd be able to hit home where people really started talking about this. When I talk to people, about, this match, a lot of people are saying this is the match that they're really fired up the most about. People really want to see Sting versus Triple H. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar is the good on paper main event, but this is sort of the dream match of Sting coming to WWE. What is he going to do? Is he still able to perform on the biggest stage of them all? Is he going to wrestle in a t-shirt? Lots of questions coming down with this one, but we're going to have to wait, the 16 more days till we get to WrestleMania and see what's going to happen from there. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally achieved the main event of the evening. We're going to be seeing our Royal Rumble winner, Roman Reigns, going up against none other than our WWE part-time champion, Brock Lesnar. Basically, WWE has been looking for its future star for a long time. Triple H has been down there in Florida working with the FCW/NXT developmental, basically getting the Performance Center up and running, trying to find the superstars of tomorrow and basically bring them up to the roster to try and phase out the superstars of today and make sure that there's a WWE long in the future. Roman Reigns is sort of the first guy to get pumped out of this system. He wasn't really an NXT guy. He was more of an FCW guy. He was along for the ride. He was one of the first champions of NXT. He held the belt for a while. He was their champion even when he was wrestling in WWE as a part of the Shield. It wasn't until he lost to, I believe, Biggie Langston, who held the belt before he got called up to the roster as well. For a good little time until Bo Dallas took the championship. Holding that title was almost like a guaranteed shot of going up out of developmental into the big system and seeing where you found there. Since Bo Dallas is sort of hit the ground, not running all that well in WWE, Adrian Neville has lost the championship. He lost it to Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn lost it to Kevin Owens. These guys don't really look like he's going to be called up anytime soon. He's going to be in developmental for a good little time, and NXT is starting to travel around, becoming its own, brand of WWE action that you can go see, and maybe it's good that those guys get to stay down there and get a little bit of seasoning. If you've seen with the people that have been, brought up out of NXT lately with your Emmas and Bo Dallas and Adam Rose, the writers of WWE are different from the writers of NXT. Maybe they don't get the same feel. Maybe they think that they have one good idea, bring them up and we'll do this with them. But then once that idea has passed, there's nothing really there from them. Roman Reigns definitely is a big star in the WWE. Just a few months ago, before the Royal Rumble win, Roman Reigns was one of the hottest guys out there. When Roman Reigns came in and to make the save for Dean Ambrose at the Night of Champions, I'm drunk right here, at the TLC pay-per-view, the people actually cheered. They were happy to see him come back from his hernia surgery, but something about Daniel Bryan not winning the Royal Rumble, he really grew tired of the WWE universe. People just didn't really jump on board with what WWE is selling. When they went into Fastlane and they fed Bryan Danielson to him, people thought that Daniel Bryan was sort of going to be a good lamb to throw at the T-Rex for him to eat. And they had a damn good match. Probably one of the best Roman Reigns matches in a singles match that we've seen from him so far. But it still wasn't enough. And people are jumping off the WrestleMania 31 bandwagon. I'm glad. I'm excited that I'm going to be there. Two big guys, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, going to go in there and just beat each other up. More than likely, it's going to be, the inexperienced fighter going up against your prize fighter and Brock Lesnar. You know, Paul Heyman's beast, the big guy against the little guy, even though the Roman Reigns is a pretty stacked dude. You know, we're going to be having a lot of fun, and it's going to be a good damn match. You know, I'm not really expecting a whole lot more than a whole bunch of punching and a whole lot of kicking. Maybe we can see some German suplexes from Brock Lesnar, you know, since he's got that over at SummerSlam with the 16 repetitive ones. There's a lot of things they could do here. Brock Lesnar more than likely is going to be leaving WWE, at least for a short little period, so he can go and try and play negotiations. There's some people who say that, you know, he's going to go to Bellator, he's going to go to UFC, he's going to go into MMA, where you can get a bigger prize fight payday for having a single fight, with having sponsors, getting paid for the pay-per-views, a percentage of the live gate, things like this. Since Brock Lesnar going back to UFC is going to be a big star. Not only is he a main eventer in WWE where he came from, when he went to UFC, you know, he became the face of the company, being the big champion, being on the cover of the video games, and being one of the guys that drove up UFC 100. You know, it's been surpassed, but at the time, one of the biggest UFC pay-per-views that they've ever had. You know, people got behind Brock. You know, he tended to bring a lot of the pro wrestling fans that already weren't into UFC, trying to see what was going down. I went out of my way to see the Brock Lesnar fights, and you know, will they let Brock sort of do a CM Punk storyline the right way? We've seen it done wrong with AJ Styles. We saw it done wrong with CM Punk. You know, basically, you know, Roman loses to Brock Lesnar. Brock actually takes the championship, leaves, is nowhere to be seen until he pops up in UFC. He has his MMA fight, win, lose, or draw. He comes back to the company, and you know, the fight is on from there. But then again, Brock Lesnar, you know, being looked at as this MMA guy going and fighting a real fight, winning it, does he want to come back and lose to somebody else? It definitely does help out WWE in the long run. It makes them look a little bit bad. They're gonna have a little bit of egg on their face, but they're gonna have somebody stand up for them the night after WrestleMania, you know, and carry the torch for them. You know, without having a championship belt, what is Triple H going to do? What is Vince McMahon going to do? Will it tear apart the Authority? Basically everybody blaming each other for not being able to sign the guy? Or is it just Roman Reigns is going to go in there, he's going to beat the guy, and that's going to be it. It's going to be all she wrote, and it's going to be done from there. You know, this is going to be a damn good main event. That's all I gotta say. WWE knows that this is WrestleMania. This is going to be the main event. This is what everybody's going to remember for the long run. You have to go back a long amount of years in order to find a main event that didn't deliver for WWE. They're going to find some sort of an ending that people are going to remember. I don't think that they're going to have a Brock Lesnar versus Big Show, the ring collapsing kind of moments, but more than likely this is going to be Roman Reigns' ride to the top. This is going to be his stamp of approval that he is the guy. It's going to be a stamp of the approval for Triple H and the Performance Center as well. They're going to have to take some credit for being able to pump these guys out. He's going to be able to show Vince that, not only did I give you a guy that's a champion for WWE, but I give you a WrestleMania headliner. He's probably going to take some credit for the buy rates or the WWE subscriptions that come in for WrestleMania, thinking that, Roman Reigns is the star. But then again, what's going to happen to them in Extreme Rules? What's going to happen to them at Money in the Bank, Night of Champions? Are they going to see a drop-off of people really not wanting to see Roman Reigns? Triple H mentioned on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast that when Roman comes out on television, it's a different kind of crowd. When Roman goes out at these live events that aren't televised, the fans that are there to see him, they cheer him. And they cheer him out of the building. It gets the biggest, ovations of the night. But something about going in front of that television is almost like the crowd that's there wants to show off for everybody watching at home. We hate Roman Reigns, to say that the same way that they hated John Cena before. They didn't want to be force-fed a champion that they weren't really in love with. Yeah, he sells a lot of t-shirts to the kids, sells a lot, action figures and video games and this, that, and the other. But, the average age of the people who watch Monday Night Raw aren't the teenagers. Here on the West Coast, which isn't the East Coast. I know it's a lot earlier here when the show ends, and maybe that's the example on why they do it. When the show starts at 5 o'clock and it ends at 8:15. But honestly, this show is mostly geared as an East Coast promotion. It is showed, worldwide, but you can definitely tell that WWE cares more about the ratings on that East Coast side. The show ends at 11:15 p.m. on a Monday night. This is the first night of the week for a school night going into a Tuesday. Most kids are exhausted after trying to stay up all weekend long. Even if you're the oldest teenager, is still in high school, maybe you can get away with it, but I mean, like, your 13, 14-year-olds, definitely your 9-year-olds, should be in bed at 11:15. They shouldn't be caring what happens on Monday Night Raw. That was always the example on why they had Raw AM, even though that showed at, like, 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or something like that. But, this is going to be fun. This is going to be a good one. Roman Reigns probably going to be the number one guy at the company from here on out, and we're going to have to find where they go from there. What happens with Brock Lesnar? Why is he appearing on Monday Night Raw the night after WrestleMania? Lots of good conversations that will lead us into the future for Extreme Rules and all the pay-per-views to come. So, like I said, I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm glad I'm going to WrestleMania 31. I'm hoping you guys are coming. We'll be, hanging out at WrestleMania Access. We'll be giving high fives. We'll be going over to WrestleCon and seeing all the different wrestling shows that are going to be scattered all over town. So if you see me, definitely hit me up. We'll do the little 2 sweets just like that. Bam, and we'll get it done. But Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, your big main event. My prediction that I'm going to give for it is Roman Reigns wins it. And I think any smart wrestling fan will give you that prediction as well. Roman Reigns taking the championship, and, from there, more than likely feuding with Seth Rollins. How Seth Rollins gets out of that Randy Orton feud, I don't know. But Daniel Bryan's going to be in the Intercontinental ladder match. Maybe he just gets promoted up into the main event until Seth Rollins is done with that. But then again, the Money in the Bank briefcase expires in June. And you only got a few months to try and find a way to use that up. Maybe you go into Extreme Rules. I know everybody tries to put these, cash-ins on a pay-per-view. Maybe they go to Extreme Rules. It's Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. They have another great, exhausting match. Roman Reigns pulls out the win. Seth Rollins comes running down there after a match with Randy Orton. Curb stomp to the head. 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins walks out the champion from there. You go into a feud of Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns, which we haven't got to see yet because of the Night of Champions match was canceled due to the hernia. And I was almost done. I'm all fired up. See, there's a lot of things that could come out of this that build towards the future of WWE. I know a lot of people look at, WrestleMania as being the Super Bowl, and once the Super Bowl was over, you go into the off season, and that's going to be about it. I know that people, after WrestleMania for April, May, June, maybe until you get to the Money in the Bank, which heats up SummerSlam, maybe they turn off WWE a little bit less, and they just go with it because it's the after WrestleMania. It's not as good as it was for January, February, March, but I'm a guy who watches it year round. Every Monday, I'm going to be there. Every Wednesday, I'm going to be watching NXT. And, I wish I could say the same for Thursdays, but SmackDown is SmackDown. You know what I'm talking about? There's some other people out there like me, but there's some lifers out there who love their SmackDown. I saw people saying that the Tonight Show was a good one. So we're going to have to see. WrestleMania is right up around the corner. I'm pumped. Hope you're pumped. See you guys later.